Hey, what's up, y'all? Oh my God. It's been crazy, to say the least. It's been an interesting weekend. Typically, I'm starting up the show back once a week with enhancements. And I can't wait for you guys to see those. Still will be the same show. Still will be the same updates, but just, with a little boost. But I had to tap in. Because of the developments in Russia this weekend. So, if you've been under a hole, bitch, in a hole, hiding, wherever you've been, there was a rebellion that transpired, or the start of a rebellion that transpired in Russia, okay? And it wasn't led by like this outside source. It was, another Russian force, okay, gagged Vladimir. Now, here's what's interesting, right? So, I'm going to get to the details of who this force is and everything that transpired, because it's really odd how everything's happened, but it's stunning to watch. And we live in a time where we think people are forever. And what is interesting about what has happened in Russia with Vladimir Putin and everything that's going on with the Wagner police force and everything like that has been a confirmation that eventually every dictator is going to run into static, and they will eventually fall. It's just about how long that's going to take. Now, Vladimir is still very much firmly in power. However, we're starting to see cracks in the foundation. There's chinks in the armor. So, what are you talking about, DDM? So, once again, if you've been hiding under a rock, basically, Russia has this special mercenary group that goes in and they basically do the dirty work for Russia. In other places, like it's called the Wagner group, which is a private military company. So basically, they're like contractors of war. That's the best way I can say it. So, like, basically what this group, the Wagner group, does is they go and they destabilize different governments, societies, or work on special operations for different governments, and they're privately contracted. So, like, be clear, Russia isn't the only place that uses companies like this. The United States uses companies like this. The UK uses companies like this. This isn't something that's specific to Russia. So let's get that out the way first, okay? A lot of countries use this, and they use it because of certain things that these military companies do that soldiers and governments and government military forces should not be doing. But when you hire that private contractor, it's kind of like one of those things where it's like, bitch, I know you about to do something shady. However, I have nothing directly to do with the shady shit that's about to go down. That has nothing to do with me. I cut the check and I moved on with my life. So I'm not aware. But the whole reason that people the governments hire these firms is to do shady, underground, underhanded shit. So, first off, you have the Wagner Group. Just to give you background on who they are, so that we understand how we've gotten here, where we're at. So, the Wagner Group is a group of entities that operate as a private military company. This is coming from CBS. These private military companies can be hired by governments for security or combat services. Okay? They aren't uncommon. The United States has used private military companies during the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. However, there are differences between the commonly accepted definition of a PMC and Russia's version of the company. So you have the everybody else version, and then you got the Russian version, bitch. So we about to look into the Russian version. So In NATO countries and Western countries, the main logic behind using private contractors when it comes to security and defense has been the flexibility of resources, okay? However, on the Russian side, the logic has been different. Russia, from the beginning, perceived these companies as a way of exerting state power in a covert way, okay? Now, here's the gotcha. This Wagner police force has kind of been, they're technically, I believe, outlawed in Russia or something like that, but that's a total joke, right? And not only does the Wagner police force help, they're working in this whole Ukraine war that Russia picked, but they also operate in Africa. Like, Africa pays them as well, and the way that Africa pays them, they pay them to kind of keep the peace in certain parts of the country, and as payment, the Wagner military company, they get a bunch of Africa's natural resources. So the Wagner, company is shipping gold straight to Russia. So basically, I don't want to call it a shakedown, but that's what it feels like. But they kind of shake certain parts of Africa down for safety and security, but they're really exporting Africa's natural resources and sending it to Russia, which this is how Russia bankrolls a lot of their military campaigns and finances, a lot of different things. Everybody loves to rob Africa, no shade. So we have the chief, Yevgeny Progozin, okay? Now this bitch, okay? This bitch is violent. Now, I want to be clear here because initially when this news broke, everybody was like, yes, he about to come for Vladimir. They ain't fighting, bitches about to go down. No. This man is not the savior that you think he is, or might have, tried to think he is. He's incredibly violent. They smash people's limbs with sledgehammers. I mean, they do some god-awful things to people. So, yes, while we do, as a country and as, Western society, enjoy seeing this, it's not like, it's this, like, huge humanitarian rebellion. He's just fucking pissed, okay? That's why he's doing that. He's not doing that because he cares about, the Ukrainians, or he thinks that the Russians shouldn't be at war, or he thinks that, a lot of things need to change. He just was fucking pissed. And, as we all know, power is a hell of a drug, and it is very addictive. So, Yevgeny Progozin, his work running a catering company with the Kremlin contracts earned him the nickname Putin's chef. But Progozin long denied any connection to the group before finally admitting to being its founder last year. Okay, so allegedly, he worked under this shadow assignment of being Putin's chef in a catering company. Bitch, I don't know how you get catering company and warmonger mixed up. But whatever, bitch. I ain't never seen Emerald carrying an AK-47 shooting up Food Network. But I digress, bitch. Progozin is a mastermind of media and also is a mastermind of social media. Said Katerina Stepanenko, a Russian analyst at the Institute for War. Now, while Putin and his propagandists have been dominating the Russian television and traditional outlets, Progozin is innovative because he weaponized the network of military correspondents, and bloggers, okay? Progozin is also wanted by the FBI for conspiracy to defraud the United States. Gag. The federal law enforcement agency is offering a $250,000 award, which I think that's kind of low. Like, this motherfucker is a whole warmonger and he fucking shit up, and you only offering $250,000, but whatever. When you think about inflation and shit like that, and like what things really cost, is $250,000 really enough money to be turning in somebody who's closely associated with the Kremlin? I don't know, but hey, that's just me. Okay. So they're offering $250,000 for information leading to Progozin's arrest for allegedly, get this, overseeing the political and electoral interference of the St. Petersburg, Florida-based Internet Research Agency from 2014 to 2018. The agency, for which Progozin was the primary funder, worked to interfere with the 2016 U.S. presidential election, according to the FBI. So, let's dig in, bitch. Not only is he a warmonger, he works for Putin's private military company, bitch, but he also is one of the hoes that fucked with the election and was putting out all of that false shit and creating narratives and creating bots. That he's one of those guys, So this is a dangerous man. Not only is he in the field toting a Glock, but he also on the internet running a bot. I can't get it. It's crazy, right? So the more you know. He knows that his key differentiator from the Kremlin propaganda is that level of criticism, level of honesty, okay? And I think that that's the platform that he's really trying to advance on and solidify himself as a prominent figure in Russia. So, the Wagner group, so they first popped up in Ukraine in 2014 when soldiers in unmarked uniforms appeared to help pro-Russia forces illegally annex territory from Russia. In addition to deploying Wagner troops to Ukraine, the Wagner group, as I said previously, has been active in Africa, where some nations are turning to Wagner to fill security gaps or prop up dictatorial regimes. In most cases, they provide training for local military forces, local security forces, but they are also engaged in VIP protection, also in guarding. And if necessary, they are able to conduct also high-intensity operations, okay? In some countries, like the Central African Republic, Wagner exchanges services for almost unfettered access to natural resources. A CBS investigation found that Russian cargo flights stopped in the country twice a week, smuggling billions of dollars worth of gold back to Russia. In 2022, the private army became a major part of Russia's invasion, even recruiting fighters from Russian prisons and promising them pardons to beef up numbers on the battlefield. In February, Progozin said that practice would be stopped. So, crazy shit. So this group, not only are they getting uncalculated amounts of gold and natural resources from Africa, but also too, they opening up the prisons and taking prisoners and using this group, and it's busy, okay. So with the Wagner group, they've also been accused of atrocities including mass murder, rape, among other things, across Africa and alongside Russian forces in Ukraine, okay? So that's this group. Now, with Progozin, the reason why, this mutiny happened, you would think with you smuggling billions of dollars in gold and, you doing all of this shit, that all would be right with the world. So let's get to why in the fuck did we even get here, okay? So, a feud between the Wagner group and Russian defense officials, according to NPR, had been brewing preceding this uprising. So, the Wagner group and Russia's Ministry of Defense had been engaged in a war of words. Progozin accused the Russian military's top brass of bungling the war effort in Ukraine and claimed that Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu and others withheld ammunition from Wagner fighters out of bitterness. Earlier this month, Shoigu announced that members of private military companies, including the Wagner Group, would be required to sign contracts with the military by July 1st. Dmitry Alperovich, co-founder and chairman of Silverado Policy Accelerator think tank, told NPR that Shoigu's order likely motivated Progozin to organize the march on Moscow. Okay, so here's what happened. People do not, you know, you can almost guarantee that it always is going to come down to the money. It's always going to come down to the money. And seeing this and reading how this all transpired, basically, this operation, he was basically a chief of his own military, right? He's able to do all of these things. Yes, he works with the Kremlin and with Russia, but he's very much his own leader, his own boss, right? Whereas the defense minister and the Kremlin are now like, wait a minute, Jack, we want everybody all under one regime now. We need y'all to be officially signed with the military. We're not going to be using private contractors anymore. Which I think that's personally because the Russian military is looking like shit in Ukraine right now. I even, if you go back and look at our older meetings, I even thought that Ukraine invasion would only last maybe a couple of days. I did not foresee this going on for now years, right? So I think that that's changed a lot. Also, too, when you look at the few news reports that you can get out of Russia, the Russian people are kind of like over this shit. You know what I'm saying? And when you can only control a narrative, but for so long before people start seeing a reality. Because it's one thing, when you control state TV, because, in Russia they have state TV, everything is controlled and monitored, right? But when you start seeing your neighbor's children not coming home, or you start seeing people missing and not returning, no matter what's showing up on that TV screen or what the government's trying to tell you, you're going to start being like, wait a minute, bitch. I'm not going to keep sending my kids out to this bullshit, or I'm not going to send my husband or my family or whoever out to this madness. So I think it changes the game a lot, and the Russian people are kind of like hit to the bullshit. Not to say that they haven't, but now it's just painfully obvious. And not only is it painfully obvious, but you're losing this battle. Not egregiously, but it's a heavy loss. So he said, you know what, bitch, you gonna make us sign these contracts. So long story short, the Kremlin like, we tired of doing the private contractor shit, bitch. You gonna sign these contracts, you gonna roll over into Russian military, and then we gonna keep it moving and keep it cute. Progozin is like, well, sis, that's not what I signed up for. That's not what I'm doing here. And he's like, if you're going to take my shit and if you're going to withhold ammunition for me to do my goddamn job, then we're going to ride on your ass, bitch, because we got tanks and shit. We got shit to make things difficult for you. Okay? Now, they started marching. They was going to march on Moscow. And watching the news this weekend, like the American news outlets, the international news outlets, bitch, they had their popcorn out. They were like, it was giving Marvel film to them. And it looked like it was getting ready to be a civil war in Russia. Well, something happened. And by last night, it was given, we're going to turn around, bitch. We not going to fight no more. And the excuse was, we don't want any Russian bloodshed and all this, that, and the third or whatever. And, him and his troops started backing up. I personally think, now, the Kremlin, before I get to what I personally think, the Kremlin, when Yevgeny said, we're going to back up, we're going to back off. The Kremlin also agreed not to press charges. He wouldn't suffer anything, and he's going to stay in Belarus, okay, and retreat back there. And some of the Wagner police, Wagner, soldiers are going to fold over into the Russian military. Here's the problem with that. And this is something that Yevgeny definitely probably knows, is that Vladimir Putin is not going to forget this. He does not just make these deals, bitch. I mean, let's just think about how many people have come up missing who have done far less. Far less. And they've come up missing in Russia. This man started a mutiny that went international. His ass is toast. Okay? I don't care what agreement they came up with. I don't care about not pressing charges. What good is pressing charges, bitch, when he gonna unalive you? What good is that? So, fast forward, Yevgeny is nowhere to be found. They don't know his whereabouts. Nobody knows where he's at. He's literally gone into hiding. Having his troops backed up, and now nobody can find him. Now, one of two ways you can think about that. Either the Kremlin had already got his ass, or it could mean that he's a smart man, and he knows that he's on borrowed time anyway. So he said, let me go ahead and be smart and get up out and, move on with my life. I will not be surprised. It's one of a few scenarios that'll happen here. Either Yevgeny will come up dead, and we'll hear about the body being found, or we just won't hear from him again and he'll go into hiding, or the Kremlin will capture him and make him an example. That's how I see this panning out. I don't see it panning out any other way. Now, according to news outlets, where he retreated to, he does have access to an airfield, and he can always go to Africa and hide out there. But then, let's think about it. If Russia has parts of, does business with certain parts of Africa, and then, the Chinese have a large, they have their hands in a lot of African business as well. We know that Putin and the Chinese are, have a friendly relationship, and, they're working together. They could easily have him exported, because Africa ain't going to look out for his ass or hold his ass there if they get static with Russia and the Chinese. Absolutely not. So I'm expecting for this man, and I could be wrong, I'm wrong sometimes. This man will probably be in the dirt soon enough. And the thing is, do I feel bad for him? No, I don't. Because when you look at what he does, what that unit does, they do terrible things to people. They torture people. I mean, some of the stuff that I've seen that this group does is absolutely horrible, and they are totally crimes against humanity. So by no means does this man deserve grace, in my opinion. Okay? Anything that happens to him in regards to Vladimir, I just look at that as karma for the tens of thousands of other terrible things that you have done. But in a nutshell, that is what's going on in Russia, folks. I know a few of you had asked me about it, and it was a very hot topic. And that's all we have. Continue to subscribe. Make sure, share this video, tell a friend and tell a friend. Follow me on social media at DapperDanMidas on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. I can't wait to see you guys, and I can't wait to share what's coming with the channel. We'll get more updates coming soon, more frequent updates and more meetings. So I love you all, and I wish you the best. Have a great week.